What's up, everybody? It's Daniel Dollinger, and I am your host of the Engineering Success Podcast. This week we have a guest. We are fortunate enough to have a guest from the world of accounting, actually. Now, I know the name of the podcast is Engineering Success, but most importantly, it's about engineering a successful career. And I think that our guest today, Dylan Alexander, has had a very successful start to his career. He is currently a master's student at the University of Georgia in their Masters of Accounting program as part of the KPMG Masters of Accounting with Data and Analytics program, or MADA for short. Now, what's really cool about this program is it's actually a fully funded master's program with a guaranteed job placement upon graduation. And when I found out that Dylan was in this program, I just had to ask him how he got into it and what he did to put himself in a position to be considered for it. So thankfully, I was able to snag him for the podcast, and he will be our interview guest for today. As usual in the podcast, we are going to have our interview, then hopefully an ad break if people want to put ads on my podcast. And then after that, we'll go into our career questions for the week. As always, if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, make sure to give this podcast a 5-star rating. If you're listening anywhere else, make sure you download it on your platform. That really helps me out. And on top of that, if you have a question that you'd like to write in, that you'd like me to respond to, you can email me at engring.success@gmail.com. Again, that's engr, just like it would show up in an engineering course catalog, ing.success@gmail.com, and I'm happy to answer your questions or respond to them on the pod. Also, if you're interested in being a guest, also hit me up on that email address. I'd be happy to talk to you about whether or not you'd be a good fit for the podcast. Anyways, that's the intro. Without any further ado, let's kick it over to Dylan in his interview. Thanks. All right, I'm here with Dylan Alexander. Dylan is a student at the University of Georgia in their Masters of Accounting program as part of the KPMG MADA Masters of Accounting with Data and Analytics program. He, as the title of this podcast says, is there on a fully funded Masters in Accounting, and we're going to learn about that today. Hey, Dylan, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. I really appreciate you having me on, and looking forward to telling my story, and hopefully we can reach some people with it. So yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you for coming on. I really appreciate it. So you're at University of Georgia, and the way that this works, it's called How They Got Here. So what we're going to do is we're going to step back. Where were you before right now at University of Georgia?
Yeah, so before I came to the University of Georgia as part of the MADA program, I was an undergrad at Trinity University, which I know you're familiar with.
Yeah. I think people are going to notice a trend on the podcast.
Hey, it's a very solid network at Trinity, so yeah, I can't fault you there.
Yeah. So what'd you study at Trinity?
Yeah, so at Trinity, I studied accounting. I earned my bachelor's of science in accounting. I graduated last May, so May of 2020.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Makes sense that you'd be getting a master's in accounting, and your undergrad was in accounting. Awesome. And what were you involved in while you were at Trinity?
So yeah, I was involved in a few different things. As you're well aware of, I was part of Omega Phi, the social fraternity on campus. Held a variety of positions within that. I was the social chair. For like a semester. What else did I do in OFI?
You were the club morale officer.
Club morale. I was the intramural chair. Very, very proud of that. I think we won a few championships under my tenure as intramural chair, so that was pretty exciting. And kind of related to go ahead.
Yeah. You played center for the football team. I'm going to give you a moment to shout out your boy.
Yeah, I want to give a quick and big shout out to Andrew Cable, the greatest quarterback Omega Phi, and honestly,
I meant your other boy
Trinity's ever seen. Who's my other boy?
Your other boy that just got drafted in the NFL.
Oh yes. A quick shout out to Rashawn Slater. He just got drafted 13th overall by the Los Angeles Chargers. He's an offensive tackle. I went to high school with him. A really good friend of mine, really great guy. So looking forward to watching him on Sundays for sure.
Awesome. So, okay, '05, I know all about that. So what other clubs were you involved in while you were at Trinity?
Well, kind of similar to Greek life, I was the Greek Council treasurer during my last year at Trinity, and that was a ton of fun. And then in addition to that, I was in a business fraternity for a few semesters. Really kind of try to network myself better and meet new people on campus and meet new people throughout the San Antonio community. Similar to that, I served as the ambassador to the San Antonio CPA Society, which, if for those of y'all who don't know, CPA stands for Certified Public Accountant. So I was the ambassador for that for basically my last year on campus as well. Got to reach out to different business professionals within the San Antonio community. And again, kind of following a similar trend, during my last year, I was a Becker campus representative. And Becker is a kind of professional certification review service. So they do CPA, they do continuing professional education and other review services for licenses like that. And one of my favorite things I did on campus, which I started in my sophomore year, was I had a job on campus in the training room, which I had a lot of fun doing, just because, being an accounting student,
yeah,
you're kind of really in that business mode and business community. However, working in the training room, got a lot of exposure to, I don't know, like different people that I normally wouldn't see, just through my different classes, and really got, I guess, I don't know, growing up as a big sports guy was pretty fun. Working the different sports games and just learning more about something new that I really didn't know too much about, and hopefully I didn't give the proper treatment to all the athletes out there. So.
Yeah. No.
But,
so it sounds like you were involved in a lot while you were a student at undergrad.
Yes, I was. That's going into school. That's something I wanted to do. I wanted to be involved on campus. I didn't want to just go to school and just go to class and be done with it. I wanted to kind of make the most of my time at Trinity and in San Antonio.
That's awesome. So I want to focus in on one of those things. You said you were an ambassador to the San Antonio CPA Society. Do you plan on becoming a CPA yourself? And if so, where are you at on that process?
I do. I do plan on becoming a CPA.
Yeah.
I actually just found out yesterday, funny you asked, that I passed my first part that I took, which is FAR. So it stands for Financial Accounting and Reporting.
Okay.
And I'm currently in the process of studying for my second exam, which I'll be taking the audit portion of the CPA exam. And I guess I can give a little background on the CPA for those of y'all who don't know what it is really.
Yeah, please do. Yeah.
Well, at least in terms of the exams. So it's 4 parts. You have FAR, which is Financial Accounting Reporting. There's audit and attestation. There's reg, which is regulation, like kind of like tax and a little bit of business law. Yeah. And then there's BEC, which kind of catches the rest of all the other business knowledge you need to know. I know there's some like economics on there. I think there's some cost accounting. So it's just, kind of catches everything else that the other exams don't cover. And so if you pass all 4 of those, you become one step closer to becoming a CPA. In addition to that, you need to work under a CPA for a year. So for those of y'all going the Big 4 route, that's pretty easy to do because you'll be working under a CPA for a year. And even if not, it's even other routes in the accounting field, you can find CPAs to work under for sure.
That's awesome. So how long are those exams by chance?
So in terms of like the actual exam, they're about 4 hours long. In terms of preparing for the exams, so like for FAR and for, I think, regulation, the Becker like CPA review service recommends about 150 hours of study time for each of those. And then audit and BEC, they recommend about 90 hours. So it's a very good chunk of time you need to commit to it, but it's very worthwhile to try to get your CPA and getting a CPA, because it would open so many like new doors for you. It's in the field of accounting, and it really sets you apart from other people that don't have that certification. So it's very, I think anyone you ask will say that it's worthwhile to pursue a CPA.
Okay, that makes sense to me. So is it also required for you to have a master's in accounting to get a CPA?
It's not required. So
Okay.
there are some educational requirements. You need like a certain amount of hours in accounting. You need a certain amount of hours in upper division accounting, which normally most would get in a master's program.
Okay.
However, you don't need to do that. You don't need to dish out the money to get a master's. You can just go to like, say, like a local community college and just go a la carte and figure out what classes you need.
Yeah.
Actually, kind of funny story. So I'm going to be working in Houston, in Texas, but I'm actually testing through New York. And that's because each state has different educational requirements at the time you take the test. So for Texas, you need 150 hours total of school, including all those accounting requirements to take the exam. But in New York, I believe it's only 120. So I was able to start studying for the exam and start taking the exam before I got all 150. So and a lot of people when I tell people that, they're a little confused, because they're like, oh, do you need to go to New York to take the test? But you don't really. You can take these tests from anywhere, from any state. And so like I could take a test in Texas, or like I'm in Georgia right now, so I just took FAR in Georgia, but I took it through the New York board. So it really just whatever fits you best in terms of educational requirements. If you want to get a head start on it, it's very doable and possible. And then so again, I'll be working in Houston. So once, knock on wood, that I become a CPA, I can easily just transfer my license from New York to Texas, and shouldn't be too big of a deal, hopefully, knock on wood. So
yeah, that's interesting. So that's really cool how that works, how you can transfer. It's kind of similar to how professional engineering works, is that you can get licensed in one state, and then most states have a relationship where they'll give you reciprocity, is what they call it in the engineering world. So that makes sense. Like some states, like for example, require you to have an engineering degree or certain degree requirements, or it's a little more difficult to go that route. In other states, it's not as, I guess, nitpicky of a process, but it's interesting that the accounting world works the same way, and it kind of makes sense since people move in general. Yeah. So I know this isn't on the script of questions that I asked you. So going off the beaten trail here. So what are you currently up to in your master's program at University of Georgia? How's that going?
Oh yeah, so it's going great. So like in terms of like classes, or just like where I'm currently at, like
what's the course load like? How does it compare to like where your time at undergrad?
Yeah, so this program is kind of broken up into 3 different parts. So we had our first semester of classes, and that was a good mix of accounting, and again, so it's KPMG MADA, so Masters of Accounting with Data and Analytics. So a big part of the program is they want to emphasize data and analytics, because that's in like the future of accounting, where we're using more softwares to be more efficient in like the audits, be efficient in tax work, be more efficient in consulting. Yeah. So, and we can also analyze more information than we used to be able to. Mm-hmm. So in my first semester, I did like 2 or 3 accounting courses. So I did like auditing 2. I did advanced accounting, which is just the next step after intermediate accounting. And then I also did some like data classes. So I did like a data management, and I did like a business intelligence class. So I was able to use software. Yeah, exactly. So that was a very cool class. Shout out Professor Jeffa on UGA campus. That was a very interesting class. But yeah, so I was able to have exposure to softwares like SQL, so like database management. Tableau, so data visualization, which is very important, and it's gaining some more importance and more traction within the public accounting world.
Mm-hmm.
I know at a lot of the big fours, they use like either, if not Tableau, they use, I don't know if you heard of Microsoft Power BI before.
Yeah, we use Power BI at my company.
Yeah, exactly. So had exposure with that. We also had like a little boot camp course before the semester started, and we did a little machine learning, which
Awesome.
was very interesting. Yeah, we didn't get super in depth on it, but I did a little project on that and learned a little bit about that. So that was fun. And then, so yeah, that kind of was my first semester. So it was a really good balance between accounting as well as data and analytics. And then we had our winter break. And then similar to what I did my senior year, where I had an accounting internship, part of the KPMG MADA program is having a second internship between January and March. So I just completed that in March, and it was because of COVID, it was all online. And so yeah, so I did that. I got some more exposure within accounting and public accounting and auditing. And then I returned to campus in March, and I took 2 different classes that were kind of condensed and expedited. So I did taxation 2, and I did accounting analytics. So in that class, we got a lot of exposure to other. So we went over like Tableau again, some more Power BI. We also just did some UiPath, which is like robotic programming, like automation, stuff like that. I don't know if you were familiar with that.
Yeah.
So yeah, a really big emphasis of this program again is not just accounting, but also exposing us to new softwares and new tools. So I'm very happy we were able to do that. And
sweet. How's the
kind of back to the
workload?
question. So currently I'm on like a little hiatus during finals because we don't have any finals. And then next week, I start my last class. Yep. And it's another expedited course, but this one is all in Python.
Oh, so, sweet. So you're like, you're learning actual like coding languages. That's exactly. Really interesting. That's a cool program. Is that like a master's program that's offered for people in general, or is it only through KPMG?
So any student here can really kind of mirror the curriculum we're doing. But KPMG is like choosing our classes for us. And what they think is suitable for the job moving forward and would make the most sense. So, but yeah, really anyone. And one thing I have noticed is a lot of accounting programs across like the country are starting to offer more data and analytics classes and courses, and they're hiring more professors that specialize in that. So that's one thing that I would recommend for like really any accounting student or any student that's thinking about accounting, is to try to get some exposure to some of these like visualization tools and a little bit of coding if you can. Because I think that would really pay dividends moving forward in your career for sure.
Sweet. So you talked a lot about KPMG, and you're talking earlier about work and internships. So let's go into those internships that you've had with KPMG. How many internships would you say that you've had with KPMG so far?
So far with KPMG, I've had the opportunity to intern twice.
Okay.
And both of those being in what in public accounting they call the busy season.
Okay. Sweet.
Yeah, and basically the bid season, for those of y'all who don't know, is so most clients, public clients will file 12/31 year end, so in end of December. And basically, depending on how like large the company is, you have a certain amount of time to or the auditing firm has a certain amount of time to audit those past year's financial statements and the company's internal controls, and have the report done basically in 3 months. Usually it works out that way. So that they call it like the busy season, because in the 3 months you're working a lot to try to get that report out, the 10K out to the users.
How many hours a week would you say that you were putting in that internship?
Yeah, so my first internship, I put in so I will say my first internship was a little unique. But the most I put in was probably like 70 to 75 hours a week.
Whew.
which is
Wow.
little intense. I will say I knew people that worked more.
Okay.
I I've knew people that worked a little less. It really depends on what client you're on, but I would say it's reasonable to assume you'll probably be working 70 to 80-ish hours a week, and that's like 6 to 7 days a week. So yeah, they call
Okay.
it busy season for a reason, for sure.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, but yeah, and then also on that first internship, so another thing they do through KPMG is which which I think is amazing. They offer this is they call it global internship.
Okay.
So yeah, so once I figured out I wanted to go KPMG, and once I like committed to KPMG, I applied for what they call a global internship. And so once I got it, so I luckily got into the program, and from there they gave me like a list of like 12 to 15 different like cities and countries
Wow.
throughout like Europe and Asia and like Australia. And so yeah, so luckily I was able to do 4 weeks. So the internship, my first internship lasted 8 weeks. So I was able to spend 4 of those 8 weeks in Perth, Australia.
Wow. Cool.
Yeah, it was like once in a lifetime, this amazing experience.
Were they still working you 70 hours in Australia, or did you at least have some time to explore the country?
Fortunately, they only worked us 40. That was that to save money? I don't know, but they also they also gave us an opportunity, which they mentioned. It gave us an opportunity to go around and explore. So I was so they don't like in the global internship program, they don't like put you by yourself. So there was two other interns with me, and shout out Emily and shout out Caitlin. But so yeah, we were able to travel on the weekends and after work. So we kind of went. So Perth is in Western Australia. So we were able to travel a little bit in Western Australia, and we were able to go to Sydney, which is East Coast, one weekend. And yeah, so I'm so thankful for that opportunity that KPMG provided, and letting us, giving us, not working us a full busy season during that time, so we can go out and explore. But yeah, that was an amazing experience. So yeah, so I said yeah. So my first 2 weeks in Houston, my next 4 in Perth, and then I finished my last 2 back in Houston. And yeah, it was unforgettable for sure.
So that was the summer after your sophomore after your junior year, or when was that?
That was the winter. So that was basically like the winter, like January to March during my senior year.
Oh wow. Okay,
So,
yeah, I know Trinity does that. That makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's one thing. So I think most schools, what they'll do is they'll have like for their accounting program, they'll have like an internship built in, usually either in the winter, so the winter being January to March, or the summer, like starting in May or June. So yeah, so I did that. Like literally, I got back, and literally when I was coming back from Australia, this is like right around COVID. So I like gave them my passport at the gate, and they're like, "Hey, have you been to China in the past like 14 days?" I'm like, "No, I haven't."
Oh my
And they're like, "Hey,
gosh.
you're good." So it was like just before like everything got shut down. So it
Wow.
was
Well,
like could not have been better timing.
wow. Well, I'm glad you made it back. So that was your first internship with KPMG, and is your second internship KPMG the other one that you described that you just finished up?
Yes, yeah. So I just finished that one so right now it's May right now. I just finished that in March. And so that one was fully online because of COVID, which I think I mentioned.
Yeah.
And on that particular internship, it was during busy season. However, because we were working from home and we weren't able to go into the client site, we were limited to like 40 hours a week, unless unless the engagement team like really needed you. So it was only about 40 hours a week, which I'll give a little insight on that. So while as an intern, it is a little daunting, working that long. However, they do pay overtime when you're an intern because you're
Sweet.
hourly. So
Yeah.
it's a very good deal for the interns. Now, I will say, once you become full time and you're salaried, you won't be getting the overtime. So it kind of stung a little bit, only being able to work 40 hours as an intern, that second internship.
Yeah.
But I mean, it is what it is. I can't complain.
Wow. So yeah,
to do other things.
I remember my friends that were all in the accounting program. They're always looking forward to that internship because they knew that they were going to work hard, but they're going to come out of it with like a pretty sizable chunk of cash.
Yep. Yeah, for sure. And it was definitely sad. So I was supposed to return back to campus like after spring break, but
yeah,
everything got shut down because of COVID. So honestly, it probably worked out. Got saved a little money, saved all that money that I earned instead of spending it. So
on campus, yeah,
while I was back at school, yeah. So
yeah,
everything happens for a reason. So can't complain.
Awesome. So what about any other internships you had? I think those are your two with KPMG. So what other internships did you do throughout your summers in college?
Yeah. So following my freshman year at Trinity, I was able to do an internship at a local steel distribution company in Houston. And I was kind of like lucky to get it just because I had a family connection there. So like my family's very good friends with like the owner of the company. So I was luckily I was able to get an internship there, and I was able to do kind of all sorts of stuff there. I was able to do some accounting work, which was so valuable, especially as a freshman, because I only taken one accounting class. So it kind of took the concepts I learned and really applied it to the real world. So that was very, very valuable. But also I got to do some other cool things during that internship. So I did some market research for the company. They were looking to expand. So I was able to kind of, I don't know, just learn something new that wasn't accounting and kind of use some new skills. And then one thing that one of my favorite things I got to do there was, so I think a very smart owner, and he wanted to reward his employees and kind of just help them out overall. And so he was putting in a gym at the they have like a big warehouse, and there's like a big area for a gym.
Awesome.
So I was able to spearhead that, and I worked with like a local like a gym equipment company, and was able to literally had I guess you're from sketch everything out and where everything would go and measure everything. And so that was a really rewarding experience. And all the employees were super happy and to have a gym, and hopefully I did them justice. I used to play football in high school, so I have a little bit of experience with weights and all the machinery. So hopefully they enjoy it. But that was a great experience. So so that was my first internship. I did that following my freshman year.
That's kind of rare that you can have an internship after your freshman year. That's awesome.
Yeah. Again, I was very lucky to be able to get that. So very thankful for that opportunity. As you said, it's not the easiest getting an internship, especially after your freshman year. So really thankful for that opportunity. And then following my sophomore year, so I did a study abroad through Trinity. So they offer I guess you're aware, they offer a bunch of different summer abroad programs, and they also offer a few with a summer abroad with an internship. So I actually took advantage of that, and I did a study abroad in China. So it was about a month and a half long, and I studied, spent the first 2 weeks, part of it in Beijing, and then the rest of it was in Shanghai. And I was able to take classes at Jiaotong University and take them with graduate students there. So again, expand my network even more, still keep up with some of the people I met there. And that was a great experience. Honestly, study abroad in general, I feel it's a great time to really kind of grow up a little bit. I mean, at least for me, I was with, living at home with my parents, kind of had most of the everything provided for me that I ever really needed. So, going abroad and really being on your own, because everyone in the program worked at different spots. So I was waking up early in the morning. I was getting on the metro, on the subway, and getting on a different one, and and going to work for 8 hours a day and having coworkers there. So, and yeah, it was, I would highly recommend to anyone out there, if it's possible to do like a study abroad, I would highly recommend that. But yeah, like funny story is at that internship. So my internship was at the Shanghai Advanced Institute of Finance. So it's just like a graduate, I think a very well respected graduate school in China. It's in Shanghai, and I was able to work in their finance department. But kind of funny story is, so everything's in Mandarin there. There's not a ton of English speakers.
Uh-huh.
So yeah, so well, first off, like I was on like the 11th or like 13th floor of the building, and on that floor there was probably like less than like a handful of people that actually knew English. So I made some friends real quick for sure. But like first day I got my computer, doing a lot of work, doing some like budgetary work, so working in Excel a lot.
Uh-huh.
And I'm like, and I realized everything's in Mandarin, and like all the symbols in Excel are like I've never seen before. So that was interesting. I made good friends with my phone and Google Translate, and like took pictures of the screen, and kind of like, yeah, I used like the translate feature on that. But yeah, again, like such an amazing experience. I'm so thankful to be able to do that. Yeah, and I think it really helped me kind of mature a lot and grow up, and kind of see what working kind of like on your own was like. So yeah.
Another thing, an observation I have is as obviously you've had some great internships with KPMG in accounting, and now you're in this awesome funded master's program with KPMG. I think that a lot of people have this conception that after their freshman year of college or after their sophomore year of college, they have to land the perfect internship that's like exactly related to what they want to do. But it's just, I mean, you can echo this. It's really hard to get those internships especially after your freshman year and even after your sophomore year, because you really haven't taken enough coursework. And I think that you are a great example of just getting the internship or job somewhat related that you can. You got to do a little bit of accounting in your summer after your freshman year. Your sophomore year, it wasn't even an accounting internship, it was a finance internship. But I bet that your experience working for a company and being somewhat related to what you wanted to do kind of set you apart and helped you get the internships you ended up getting later on with KPMG. Would you agree that kind of set you apart, having experience already?
Yeah, 100%. I definitely agree with that. Yeah, I would say like, yeah, just really like being able to really get any sort of experience at all, because again, like, yeah, as a freshman, as a sophomore, you might not even know what you want to do at that point,
Yeah.
So just kind of, and also, I don't know, I had a teacher in high school that kind of like told me like, hey, like, you don't know what you want to do until like you do something you don't like, so like even like if you do like an internship, something you hate, like you end up hating, at least you know like you don't want to do that and you want to move on to something. But yeah, again, like in it, like just having some sort of experience, I think is very valuable. It's not necessary, I would say, but I would say it's very valuable, like interviewing for a job, because that just gives you like another talking point, something that something you put on your resume, and you can kind of try to set you apart from other people. So yeah, I would agree with everything you just said.
Thanks. I'm just, using this podcast to reinforce my beliefs and get other people to say that they agree with me. So I appreciate you playing in on that. So
of course.
So in these internships, now let's focus back on the accounting ones mainly. How much of the things that you did during these internships were things that you learned in school versus things that you had to kind of learn on the job while you were there?
Yeah, that's a great question, because that's something that I was a little nervous about going into like these different internships.
Yeah.
And I would say that like that school provided like a very good background information, like, and kind of like a good baseline to have. However, I feel like most of the things you'll encounter on the job is things that you will learn on the like everything, like you will learn everything as you go. Like they don't really expect you to know that much. I mean, obviously you need to have some sort of baseline and know what you're doing a little bit, but not really. It's like, because they're like at these different companies, they're gonna like want you to do things their way.
Mm-hmm.
And so everyone has a different way of doing things. So yeah, I would say like I wouldn't sweat it if you don't, if you and if you're feeling like you've got to go into an internship and you're a little nervous, you're like, oh, I don't know, I'm not qualified, or I don't know a ton. Well, that's totally normal.
Uh-huh.
And yeah, I think you'll learn a lot on the job. I mean, would you agree with that? I mean,
Yeah, I'd agree. I mean, when I got into my internship, they just expected us to try hard and have basic understanding, but more importantly, the desire to learn and 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 do the best that we could and try to soak in as much knowledge as possible, especially with
exactly.
a company with a structured internship program. Now, there are cases where some maybe more, probably more of the case with smaller companies where it's an internship and they're actually trying to get something out of you. But the larger companies that have structured internship programs, they generally look at it as more of a recruiting and an investment type thing than just trying to extract a little bit of work out of you, is kind of the perception I have.
Yeah, I would agree. I guess one more thing to add on that is, like, through my different internships, I think I've realized, like, yeah, it's great to know a lot about it, sure, but yeah, just having like a positive attitude and, like, as you said, just like wanting to like learn and soak in new information. I think that's like really the most important thing. Is like, and I think employers and bosses, they'll see that, and they'll see that, you know, you're really like excited about learning something new or just trying your best. So definitely.
Thanks again for agreeing with me. I appreciate that.
Hey, you're a very, very smart guy, and you've have a ton of experience, I know. So yeah, you're a good person to listen to for sure.
You flatter me. This is why I bring you onto the podcast. All right.
Yeah, I'm gonna need that money after the podcast.
I don't know what you're talking about. You have your internship money. Yeah. So I know you said that most of the things you do, you learn on the job, but what was the most, what would you say, applicable class that you took that you used the most whenever you did get into these internships?
Yeah. So I would say, like, at least for like accounting and like the KPMG like Big Four internships.
Yeah.
I would say like the most applicable class for that had to be like my 2 intermediate accounting classes. I think it covers, like, also shout out Dr. Pershlin and Dr. Korf at Trinity. It really just exposes you to like all like the different terminology and all the different like financial statements and all the different like documents that you might see or possibly see. So definitely in my 2, like intermediate 1, intermediate 2 classes, like 100% most applicable, like for accounting.
Yeah, that I feel like that helps, because exactly, like whenever I went into my internship, yeah, I saw these documents and stuff that I had seen before, and there were terms that were super jargon based, but I actually, at least I knew what the term was, so I wasn't foreign to me, and I was like, I wasn't looking at this like seeing this for the first time. I might not have known what exactly to do with it, but I at least knew the direction to go with
Exactly.
it. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. So how important do you think it is for somebody that wants to work for one of these Big Four accounting firms? How important do you think it is for them to have an internship while in college? And by the way, for anybody that doesn't know who the Big Four are, here's my quiz for you. Can you name the Big Four? This is the easiest question you've had all day.
Oh, are you asking your audience, or you're asking me?
Well, we've given them enough time to answer it themselves.
Let's give them a second. Let's give them a second more. Let them think about it for a sec.
And go.
So I'm gonna go with. Well, I don't honestly. Do I even want to plug these other Big Four? I mean, there's only one Big Four that matters. But no, we have Deloitte. We have Ernst & Young, so EY. We have KPMG, which might be, in my opinion, is the best.
Phil Mickelson would agree.
Oh yeah, big Phil Mickelson guy for sure. And the last one is PricewaterhouseCoopers, PwC for short.
All right. So how important is it for somebody? First of all, yes, those are the right answers. Good job. I'm glad you got it right. Ding, ding, ding. So how important is it for somebody that wants to work for one of those Big Four, which is probably most people that are going to school for accounting? how important is it for them to have an internship before trying to work for one of those companies?
So I would say it is important to at least have like something that you did, internship or like even a job.
Yeah.
I would say that is pretty important. However, I don't think it's necessary in order to land a Big Four internship. Yeah, like again, as I kind of talked about earlier, like it's good to have someone like down on your resume. So when you're doing these interviews, you have something you can talk about. You have something like you can kind of like fall back on and show like what you did and how you worked in like in like a different environment, in a work environment. But again, it's not necessary, but I think it would help a good amount.
Now you said Big Four internship. So are all of the entry level accountants for the Big Four people that have come through the Big Four internship, or could you not intern for any of the Big Four accounting firms ever and then graduate and then work for one of the Big Four right after graduating?
So it is possible not to have done a big four internship in college and land a Big Four just straight job after you graduate. But I will say I believe it is much harder. And I would say the majority of Big Four, like at least like associate. So like you start out as an associate, that's like it's your first year. I would say the majority of them do come from the internships. I think that's how they get the majority of their employees. Yeah,
that makes sense. So I'm going to skip a question. I'll come back to it. So what is that recruiting process like for the Big Four accounting firms?
Yeah. So at Trinity specifically, and I believe at most of like, the bigger schools, and schools that have like a relationship with a Big Four, it's very streamlined. So, I mentioned intermediate accounting. So I believe like an intermediate one. So I took that at Trinity. That's first semester of your junior year.
Okay.
Is when we're really first introduced into the whole like Big Four and kind of recruitment process. But that first semester we have an event called Meet the Firms, or is it either that or like a recruitment fair. And basically they have like all the Big Four. They have local companies. They have like unofficial like Big 5, 6, 7. Like BDO, Grant Thornton. I know like Trinity being in San Antonio, they had like Valero there. And that's just like a good opportunity to kind of get your name out there and to meet some of the different recruiters because during like this whole like Big Four internship process, your main point of contact will be like the different recruiters for each campus. But yeah, so that's like first semester of your junior year. And after that, not too much happens. However, second semester, you go from intermediate 1 accounting to intermediate 2 accounting. And that's when the process gets pretty serious and start gaining a little traction and a little speed. So that's like when, like literally through our intermediate 2 class, we all like an assignment we had was to literally make a resume if you didn't have one already, take it to like career services, have them check it over. And like, so yeah, we literally turned in our resume, which is a great idea, making sure everyone has resumes. But from there, that's when we started applying to these different Big Four. And not everyone goes Big Four. Not everyone wants to go Big Four because, again, I talked about earlier, it's kind of, it can be, the hours can be a little crazy. So some people don't go Big Four, which is, again, very, you got to do what you want to do. But yeah, so from there we apply there, and if you get like an interview, we start doing interviews in like March/April of our junior years, and then from there, if you end up getting an offer, then it gets, I would say for an internship, it gets very serious because then you have like they call office visits. So all throughout, like when you start like meeting these firms, like the recruiters will host different events to kind of like around the community, take you out to like different restaurants.
Top Golf.
Top Golf is a very big one. Very big one. I play. I'm not great at golf, trying to get better, but that was always a good time, just trying to whack some balls around and see how far you can hit them. But yeah, so yeah, all throughout like that second semester junior year, we have these events. And then if you get like an internship offer, you have like then it gets like really serious. But then they'll start like, I know for KPMG, like after I got that offer, they flew everyone out from Trinity that got an offer from KPMG. They flew us all to Houston, and we got to go
Okay.
to like an Astros game, in the KPMG suite, which was just
Wow.
amazing. And then like the next day they took us out to like, it was on a Saturday, and then took us out to, like a Sunday brunch. They flew us all back. Like that was amazing. Yeah, so like they really they'll wine and dine you like a ton. I mean, you will be working those busy hours, but I would say really enjoy that recruitment process for sure, because it's a great time. You get some really nice dinners, some fancy steakhouses and such. But yeah, so yeah, again, it's a very streamlined process. Like literally, if if you're in the accounting program, at least at Trinity, basically everything's kind of cut out for you. You just got to like apply yourself and apply to different firms and actually like take the initiative, go out and meet these different recruiters and attend these different events. But yeah, after that process, you're actually, before you make your official decision, like which is like May 1st, kind of like similar, like I guess college.
Yeah.
May 1st, like when you're a senior, like I think May 1st is the day you have to pick. But prior to that, you like actually are able to go to the different offices and see like what the offices are like, meet a bunch of the different people that are actually working there at these different Big Fours. Because yeah, one thing that I really like about kind of, I guess, Big Four accounting in general is, so it's like, it's like a process. So, everyone starts off as associate and they work their way up. So when you first start, you'll be working with people like your age and like, people that you can relate to, so it's not like, now you start at a company and you're like the youngest one there, but like 10 years and you can't really relate to everyone. It's like you kind of progress as everyone progresses together, and it's pretty neat, and pretty awesome being able to like relate to everyone. But let me get back to the point. Sorry. But yeah, so again, the whole process very streamlined, and yeah, it's literally it's not very difficult. And then when I say not very difficult, they make like Trinity and I guess some of these different schools do make it easy for you to be able to put yourself out there and meet all these different recruiters and meet these different employees at these different Big Fours, and kind of help you make that decision, get your foot in the door, and then ultimately make that decision of which company you want to intern with.
Okay, so would you say it's really important to pick the right, if you want to go, especially if you want to go public accounting, go Big Four, would you say it's really important to pick the right undergrad university, specifically one that has a pipeline to the Big Four, to set yourself up for success with the recruitment? Is it hard to do it if you're not in that pipeline and you're not getting wine and dine the same way?
Yeah, so I would say, yeah, if you have aspirations of going Big Four, it is pretty important to pick a university that does have some sort of relationship with the Big Four. Just because, again, like the whole process is like basically the recruiters know like all these different schools, and they'll seek you out if they have a relationship with your school. Now, I will say, it's not impossible, and it is very doable to get an internship with a Big Four and not like go to a school with like a relationship with a Big Four. Like I met one girl through the internship who she went to like a different school in the San Antonio area that didn't have like the best relationship with the Big Fours, but she very, very smart, very bright girl, and she just had to put herself out there a little bit more and take it upon herself to like meet the recruiters and stuff. But yeah, ultimately I would say it would be wise to try to, if possible, to pick a school that has a relationship with the Big Four, if your aspiration is to intern with them and eventually work with a Big Four one day.
Sweet. So here's your other opportunity to give a shout out. So quick shout outs to both of your universities. What would you say to somebody that's considering Trinity for undergrad? Would you say it's a good school to go to?
Yeah, Yeah, I would. I'd highly recommend it. It is a very small school. It's like what is it, 2,400,
Yeah.
2,400 students, um, which it actually is a little bit smaller than my high school. But yeah, no, I had an amazing experience at Trinity.
Mhm.
Wouldn't trade it for anything. I really got like a ton of opportunity because of the smaller school and
Mhm.
because we were in like such a big city, like so close to downtown San Antonio. So, I was able to become like an ambassador to CPA Society. I was able to network with all these different professionals around.
Mhm.
And I would say that Trinity has a very good reputation within that with like the San Antonio community. So you tell someone you go to Trinity, they'll be like, whoa, okay, like, all right, you're serious. You're serious about academics
Mhm.
and you're a bright person.
Sweet. Now, what about UGA?
And first off, go Dogs.
Yeah.
I got here. I got here.
SEC.
Wait, what? Yeah, SEC.
SEC. Oh, how's the chant go? It's just SEC, right?
I could not tell you honestly. I
I
wish
think
I wish I could.
it's an easy word to
I'm
spell, not a word, acronym. Easy to
SEC,
spell.
yeah. But yeah. Again, that I will say like UGA kind of fulfilled the one thing I was missing at being at Trinity, which is it's D3. Like you really get that like D1 sports, you get the SEC football,
Yeah.
and there's nothing like it really. And yeah, so again, like going from Trinity, which is like 2,400 students, to like UGA, which I don't know, it's like 25, 30,000,
Mhm.
something like that. Way different experience, but yeah, I love like, so it's located in Athens, Georgia, which is like an amazing like college town. There's so many
Mhm.
different things to do. Um, but yeah, again, like in UGA, similar to Trinity has a very good reputation. They have very good relationships with the Big Four. It's like a big feeder for like all the different Big Fours. Especially if you're like trying to go to like somewhere in Atlanta, I think that helps. This is so
Mhm.
close. But yeah, I will say like Trinity and UGA has had like amazing like accounting professors. They're all like so passionate about like what they do, and they're passionate about like us actually learning. And
Mhm.
um, so yeah, so go Dogs. But you
Yeah.
really can't go wrong with either one of those schools for sure.
Yeah, I'm glad that you've gotten the experience that you had, and I know that the KPMG program that you're in kind of influenced it, but I know that a lot of universities, their accounting students, they go to the same university for their masters as they go for their undergrad. I know
Mhm.
Trinity, especially, that's the case. There's a lot of students that do that. What was it like for you switching universities for your master's program? I know that's kind of a departure from the standard operating procedure, for me to use a
Yeah.
work term. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, again, like if I wouldn't have done the KPMG MADA program, I would have been at Trinity right now, doing my fifth year. But yeah, it's a different experience, because I knew everyone at Trinity, I knew all the professors. It's just like it's like a second home there. And coming here, it's especially during COVID, so no one's like going out, it's really hard to meet people.
Mhm.
Um, it was tougher, but luckily, so there's like, what is it, 12 others. So shout out my KPMG UGA MADA squad, shout out MADA-ish. But yeah, I mean, I got lucky in that sense,
Uh-huh.
because I had like a group like just that I was taking all the same classes with, so that that really worked out. And yeah, those some of my best friends, in the MADA program. So really thankful for that. And one benefit, I guess I would say, like maybe not going to like say to the
The
same
same school.
same graduate school as your undergrad, is like literally everyone in this program is going different places. So there's people in like California, there's people like Philadelphia, there's
Mhm.
people in Florida, there's uh, Atlanta, there's people all over the country. So like DC. So it's like, again, just speaking about like the network and expanding your
Mhm.
network, that's like amazing too.
Sweet. So I'm guessing that the program that you're in is probably one of the reasons why you picked KPMG, but are there any other reasons why you picked KPMG?
Yeah. So going back to like the whole recruitment process. So that's one of the things like through that whole process is you want to evaluate, the different firms and see what each one has to offer. And I guess my biggest takeaway from that whole process was, so all the firms will offer like similar benefits. They'll offer similar pay, basically the same pay, basically. I mean, and all of them are, the big four, so they're huge. They have locations like everywhere. They have it all in the US, all in that in Perth,
Mm-hmm.
Australia. They have locations everywhere. So that's basically all the same. And I would say like the one thing like that helped me pick KPMG over anything was just meeting the different people.
Mm-hmm.
Like, yeah, it seemed like everyone, at least in the Houston area, and everyone I met here, like in the MADA program, this is very genuine people.
Mm-hmm.
That like accounting, but also just like very like social, like talkative, just great people. And I guess kind of going off that is, so I was like between KPMG and one of the other big four. I won't give
Mm-hmm.
them any more shout outs. Just we'll
I
keep the
get it.
KPMG name out
I get
there.
it.
But so yeah, so one thing I noticed was like there were a lot more Trinity students that stayed at KPMG
Uh-huh.
like past like a year or two than compared to some of the other ones. So I'm like, well, if they're staying, I mean, everyone's working similar hours, everyone has the same struggles. So I mean, why are they staying longer than some of these other like some of these Trinity students at other big fours?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that just came down to like them like at least in like enjoying the company of like the different like people and peers and other employees
Mm-hmm.
that they are with. So yeah, I think that was like my main like the main driver in my decision to pick KPMG. And actually, I didn't. So I wanted to do the MATA program, but I committed to KPMG while still in that process of applying to the MATA program. So I didn't even know I was in the MATA program when I picked KPMG.
Oh wow, that's an extra testament to why you picked them then.
Yeah, definitely.
So you talked about why you picked KPMG. Now, why do you think that they picked you, especially for this MATA program? So if somebody else wanted to get into, I mean, we've kind of gone through your history, so I think I know where this is going. But if somebody else wanted to be in a position which is not the position that everybody's in fact, I'd say a small percentage of people are in this position, to have their masters paid for by their future employer, especially one of the big four accounting firms, what do you think sets you apart, or what do you recommend to somebody that is also trying to get into your boat?
Yeah, so I guess specifically for like the MATA program, again, like the last two letters of that DA, whatever. So, data and analytics. So
Mm-hmm.
having like a passion for that, having an interest in it, having, taking classes that you're able to like, use different technologies. I think that's a huge part, because that was a
Mm-hmm.
big part of the application process is have at least having some sort of interest in it.
Mm-hmm.
And another thing is, I mean, it obviously helps to have good grades. It helps to um, be able to like conduct yourself well in the interview. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, so I think I guess it's really like a combination of all that. But I guess the biggest thing is like you have to like want to do it. You can't just apply like whatever. You have to like commit if you're gonna do it, commit to it.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, really put effort into it. But yeah, I guess it's like a culmination of all those different things, really.
Mm-hmm. So you mentioned good grades. So how important was GPA? I don't know why I said it so slow, but how important was GPA to you in undergrad? And has that changed at all since you've gotten to graduate school and you already have a job? And has it been like a senior spring type of experience in grad school, or how's it been? I don't know if you'll
Yeah,
admit
so
that. If it
no,
was.
hey, I'm open. I'm an open book right now. I'm on your podcast. I'll be open. Yeah, I would say like grades have always been like pretty important to me. It was never like, I don't know, like I'm never gonna like beat myself like really beat myself up over like a bad grade or anything.
Mm-hmm.
But like I know I have like high expectations of myself. Like starting in high school, yeah, I did well in high school. And I also did very well in college. And I would say I became a better student in college. And not even that like I valued like GPA more per se, but I think I like when I was on my own, I got better time management skills. I got more responsibility. And I think, at first it's kind of like a scary thing. It's like you're kind of like more on your own than you ever been before for most people. So I say like I started valuing, I guess I'm not saying I value GPA more, but I value like hard work more, and like spending like your time right. And then coming into grad school, I would say, I've luckily done very well so far in grad school.
Yes, sir.
And I've continued to have pretty high standards of myself. And I will say like this semester specifically, I have been like, studying for CPA. So it's been a little bit harder. But at the same time, I mean, it's, you just got to do it, I don't know. But yeah, I guess to answer your question, I guess GPA has always been pretty important, but it's never been like the like most important thing for me. It's like, I'd rather, I want to have like a good balance between like social and academic life. I don't just want to like all like school, all academics and all GPA. Nothing. No.
Yeah, and that's why I appreciate you sharing all the things that you were involved with and you continue to be involved with. Because I think that the balance is super important. Is there a GPA point at which the accounting firms kind of start considering people a little bit less, or is there kind of a cutoff GPA that you've observed?
Yeah, I would say you would, if possible, the minimum you would want about a 3.0 GPA. That's like overall and like business/accounting GPA. You want to at least shoot for that. I will say some big fours do have a little bit higher standards than that, but if you can, I would say like at least as of like now like 2020.
It's 2021.
Well, yeah, true. It is 2021. I guess I was kind of in the midway because I guess I interviewed in 19.
Yeah.
So 2019, 2021, all in that sort of time frame. Yeah, if you can, at least in my experience, it might be different for a different part of the country. Could be lower, could be higher, but I would say at least try to shoot for a 3.0. But even if you don't have a 3.0, it's not impossible. You can still do it.
Sweet. So what would you say to somebody that's coming out of high school, going to college, considering accounting as their major, as their career? What do you like the most about your career? And what do you find the most challenging about it?
Yeah, so I guess someone in high school, like considering accounting, well, first off, I would say good for you. I think it's a good career choice, at least to start off and kind of for your career, starting off in your career. I don't know. I feel like accounting gets like a kind of a bad rap sometimes. It's like, oh, it's boring. You're like in a room, like all scrunched up in a room all day, like on your like 10 key, whatever, like, crunching numbers and not talking to anyone. But I would say that's kind of the opposite, at least like in auditing. I guess to answer your question, like one of the things I like most about it is kind of like the social aspect of it. You're like, so first off, like you're, at least in auditing, you're not even in the office, you're actually on the client site. So, you gotta explore a new area, and then really like building like a bond with like people on the engagement team. So engagement teams can vary in size. They can be small as like just a few people, and they can get as large as like 20, maybe a little like over 20 people. So accounting is like, at least auditing specific, is, I would say, is very social. And like one of the things that they look for, like when you're interviewing at these big fours, at least like when like my interviews, they want to like make sure like, because you will be working these long hours, they want to make sure that you're like you're like can carry a conversation, and you're like a kind of an interesting person, I guess. I don't know if that's the best word to say, but like,
man, I'm so boring. I guess I wouldn't qualify.
Oh, don't say that. You would 100% qualify.
Oh, thanks.
But then most challenging, I guess, was the other question.
Yeah.
I mean, the first thing that comes to mind is, those hours that you work is, I mean, it's, obviously you'd rather not be doing that. You'd rather be working 40 and, having more time outside of work.
Yeah.
So I guess that's like, at least that's the first thing that comes to mind is like the most challenging thing. But yeah, to anyone out there that's considering accounting, I would say go for it. Don't let like stereotypes or other people dissuade you from it. Try it yourself, and if talk to me. We can talk it through, and I want to see as many accounting majors as I can, because I would say like accounting as a whole is very like stable career, and it will be in demand. I know some people say, oh, like automation, robots are going to take over accounting. There aren't going to be any need for accountants, but that's just not true. Especially in auditing, it's such like a very like judgment-based profession, and not everything's black and white. So there's going to be like, you need to use different like judgment and like professional skepticism, and yeah, there's some freedom to it. It's not all like it's either true or false. There's a variety. It's a lot of gray area, I guess you would say.
Yeah, good to know. I think that would be a really interesting part of the career as well.
Yeah.
All right, Dylan, we've made it to the final question. So we kind of talked through your timeline here. So are there any things that you want to pick out that were kind of key moments that you made, key moments where you made key decisions? And then also, I know you've been given some shout outs throughout. So any other key people who have helped you get to this point that you'd like to acknowledge or thank, and then we'll wrap this baby up.
Yeah. Before I answer that question, I just want to thank you for having me on here. It's been a pleasure being able to share my story and journey with you and anyone out there listening. But
I've enjoyed it. Thank you.
Yeah, for sure. In terms of key decisions, so I started off going into college wanting to be an accounting major, because my brother was, I haven't mentioned it yet, but my brother was also an accounting major at SMU in Dallas. So that kind of sparked my interest. Yeah, pony up. But I don't, in terms of key decisions, I mean, I would just say just deciding to actually like take that first accounting class, continue with it. I wouldn't say that, I don't think I can necessarily point out like one thing or another that was like, yeah, like that's why I want to do accounting. I think it was just like a culmination of the entire process, and and learning from all these different like amazing professors throughout the way, and seeing other people's excitement for it has really helped it out a lot. And in terms of like shouting out anyone else, want to take a moment to thank my family, just for helping me more than they'll ever know throughout the way. My brother, my parents, my other family in Texas, my family in California. I really appreciate y'all. I want to thank all my professors. Again, I know I mentioned them already here at UGA, especially back at Trinity. They are amazing. Always willing to help and reach out and take any time like I needed for assistance, and always willing to talk. And lastly, shout out all my friends that have helped me out through the process, like yourself, Daniel.
Thank you.
And yeah, I wouldn't change anything. I've had an amazing journey so far, in my humble opinion, and can't wait to see what the future holds.
Yeah, I also think you've had an amazing journey. As somebody who's got to watch you as a friend throughout college, and now that I've graduated, and now that you are in your master's program, see you absolutely killing it over there. It's just awesome to see, and you're doing great. And I really appreciate you joining. And what I hope to do is that maybe 10 years from now, whenever you're a partner or something like that in your firm, maybe we can do a check back in and kind of update everybody on how much further the journey has gone for you. So thank you so much. My
Yeah, of course.
my headset's over here telling me low battery, but
Oh,
thank you again so much. I really appreciate it, Dylan.
of course. Yeah, I guess I'll go ahead and set a reminder on my phone for 10 years from now that we can reconvene. Yeah, we'll see where we're all at, and I'm really looking forward to that.
Yeah. All right.
And
Thanks,
again,
Dylan.
yeah. Thank you again. Thank you again for having me on, and thank you for anyone listening to up to this point. Thank y'all for listening to what I had to say. I really appreciate that.
Sweet. Well, all right. So that's going to conclude this section of the podcast. We're going to kick it over to an ad break if I still have one right now. And after that, I'll answer some career questions. So please stick around and I'll catch you on the other side of the break. Thanks.
All right, so hopefully you just listened to an ad there. Otherwise, I don't get ads anymore, but that's more than just fun. All right, let's kick it into the career questions segment of the podcast. As they have been so far, these questions are pulled from Reddit, and if you want to submit your own questions, submit to them to me on email at engring.success@gmail.com. All right, here's the first question. For those of you who got internships this summer or in the past, do you ever feel nervous that you might not perform well? Context, I got an internship at a Fortune 200 manufacturing company and am kind of worried that my performance might not go well and that the summer might suck. I think this is a really good question. I think that it kind of boils down to a theme of imposter syndrome that a lot of people that haven't worked in the industry before or haven't worked a job before, they feel like that they might feel like they don't belong or they feel like they're not prepared. But the really cool thing about your internship program, and I'm speaking from my experience with a structured internship program with a larger company as well, is that a lot of these larger companies really have designed their internship programs as more of a recruitment tool than anything else. And on top of that, they generally understand that you're a student and that you're an intern. And they also understand that most of the things that you're going to do on the job are things that you learn on the job. So they're not really going to expect you to know how to do everything on the first day. Your degree has taught you how to learn. It's taught you how to search for tools. You know, the cool thing about college is not everything is spoon fed to us. We're definitely constantly learning and having to teach ourselves things. And I'd encourage you to take those skills you developed on how to learn and you apply that to your internship. Take a positive attitude into it. Take the desire to learn, and I'm sure that you will show very well for yourself in the internship. Again, they don't expect you to be perfect. They don't expect you to know everything. They just expect you to give your best, try, and give your best to contribute. Do this, and I think that you'll have a great lasting impact on the company. And that's kind of related to what Dylan talked about in his interview in the podcast as well. So something to keep in mind. Again, be positive, have your learning mindset, do your best, and use what you do know to help you learn the things that you need to learn. But again, most importantly, stay positive. All right. And let's go into our next question. The next question is also from Reddit. Alrighty. The title of this question is Help. Nice. All right. Hello, everyone. I'm writing to ask for some advice. For the last few weeks, I have been having a very hard time finding the strength to study. I just sit in front of the books for 10 hours every day, from the moment I wake up to the moment I go in bed. But I actually get like 2 or 3 hours of poor quality studying out of it. This also prevents me from playing video games or doing anything else at all because I keep on telling myself, but I have to study. Makes sense. I've also tried setting up a schedule and changing my study method, but that didn't help at all. This, shit, is also making me fall behind this semester. I just feel so burnt out. Do you guys have any advice? Yeah, so I know it's a lot harder right now with remote learning being a thing, but one of the things that really helped me out with studying was finding my peers and a community of my peers to help me study. That helped me for a couple of reasons. The first thing is it was an accountability thing. We were studying in a group, so if anybody got distracted, inevitably the group knew that our mission was to do well on our tests, do well on our classes. So somebody, at least one person, would be like, "Hey guys, let's focus on what we're trying to get accomplished here." So that's the first thing that really helps from studying in a group. Secondly, the other thing that really helps from studying a group is, especially with engineering and also with other math and science classes, is I think that the most effective way to study is through doing practice problems. So not necessarily just staring at a book, like you said, sitting in front of a book for 10 hours every day. I don't personally believe that that's the most effective way to study for science coursework and courses where your exams are going to involve you solving analytical problems or engineering problems. I believe that the most effective way is, again, to do practice problems. So one thing that's really cool about studying in a group is that you don't have to find all the practice problems. Your peers you're all looking at the notes together and you're all looking through your book or your resources for practice problems and be like, oh, this is a really good practice problem. You don't have to do it all yourself. It's a collaborative thing. One person pulls a problem and then you solve it as a team. And then ideally, by the time you're done studying every single person in the group knows how to solve it because at least one person got it correctly and is able to explain it to somebody else. I also find that I learn really well whenever I teach it to other people. They say that teaching is one of the best ways to learn. So again, I think that studying in a group would really, really help you out with that beyond just setting up a schedule and changing your study method. On top of that, I think that it is really important to have balance. So you talked about how you want to play video games or do anything else at all. I think that it's really important to do those things. And what I'd recommend doing is scheduling those activities at some point in the day so that you know that you're working towards those things. And I know you talked about your schedule, but again, schedule those things throughout your day, those fun things, those activities, and that will force you to be quote unquote productive during the time that you do have dedicated to studying so that way you can also do your fun things and play video games. For me, the way that I did it in college is that I was involved in a couple clubs. So I really had to be very focused on my studying because I really wanted to be also involved in the clubs. So that really helped me out as well. So anyways, that's my take on this. I wish you the best. I hope that you're able to find a group of other people that are in the same classes as you. For me, it was a group of 10 really close friends that were all in the engineering cohort together, and we spent basically every single waking moment together throughout college, and we're still in a group chat today, and we still talk regularly, and I hope to bring some of them onto the podcast as well. And for you, I hope you're able to find that community within your engineering program as well. All right, so those are our 2 questions for this week. Keeping it short since I know that we had a longer interview, but again, I really appreciate you tuning in. If you want to send in your own question, I'm going to repeat it again, engring.success@gmail.com. I am Daniel. This has been the 4th episode of the Engineering Success Podcast. Make sure you share it with your friends. Make sure you rate it highly on Apple Podcasts. Make sure you download it on your preferred podcast provider, and I will check in with you probably 2 weeks from now. Thanks.
I'm miscommunicating. I just made a pilot, then they threw me on the stations. I'm not complaining. My thoughts get complicated. I cannot explain in lameness. Never losing focus because I ain't chasing payments. Still playing in the basement while I'm working on arrangements. They heard the kid in 50 countries. Thank God that's amazing. But I'd rather thank Spotify. They put me on the station.